Hello everyone and welcome to the Hope Collective. Today we're doing another pick a card and I'm starting with the frequency tarot deck to pull out some significator cards to indicate each of our piles. Shuffling that now. As you know, if you've been here before, Spirit tends to get pretty long-winded with me. So if you come back for pile 2 or pile 3, you might see me on a different background if they end up getting filmed on a different day and released as a different video. Okay, so we have pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. Pile 1, we have number 75, Transcendence. Wow. Love that. Pile 2, we have number 66, The Selves. That is pretty cool. And for pile 3, is this in reverse, Spirit? Yes. Okay, so we have the uplift frequency number 65. Pretty interesting that that's right before number 66, but it did come out in reverse. Maybe some of you are needing some upliftment. I guess we'll find out when we film pile 3. So thank you for joining me today. Take your time picking your pile, and I will see you at your group. You can use the timestamps below, or if I have filmed these as separate piles, you'll find links below once each video is posted. Hello everyone, and welcome to pile number 2 for today's Higher Self Messages Pick a Card. This is your pile if you chose card number 66 from the Frequency Tarot, The Selves. And as I was getting set up for this reading today, I made myself a cup of tea so that I have my liquids to sip on when my throat gets dry while I'm talking. And my tea tag had a little message for this group as well. It says, "Celebrate your successes and failures. Both required great courage." So we'll see how that fits in with the rest of your reading today. There we go. For a second I thought I had misplaced my Frequency Tarot manual, and I want to read the message for card number 66, The Selves. If you have drawn this card upright, you need to be versatile at this time. We all have multiple facets to our personality. Now is the time to know which aspect of your personality needs to take center stage and which one to keep behind the velvet curtain until its turn comes. You are being called to adapt to different functions or activities. Allow yourself to be like an actor, playing a different role in each situation, provided that each role is an actual expression of a facet of you and not a facade that is designed to hide the real you. Let each different color of yours show. Very interesting message. I really like that, and I'm really curious to see which direction Spirit takes us with guidance for you from your higher self based on that message, or involving that message. We're going to start the rest of our reading with the Spirit Song Tarot today. Right away we've got this one coming out. The Hanged Man, number 12, Patience and Perspective. That's very interesting. That gives me the idea that some of you are in a situation where a certain aspect of yourself is really chafing at being hidden in that situation. But as that message from the Selves card suggested, it's just not time yet for that part of yourself to be revealed to that group, or for it to be... The image that's coming to mind is like different aspects of ourselves can serve different functions and purposes. They can act as tools for different functions and purposes. And this situation is not actually calling for that tool. So that part of yourself is really wanting to be channeled and might need to be channeled into other areas of your life until it is time for that tool in that situation. It's like if you use the wrong tool on the wrong part of the car, you might break that part of the car, whereas the same tool might fix a different part of the car. And then we have this card, Justice, Truth and Clarity. And this is 11 while the Hangman is 12 in the Major Arcana. And with the 11 here and the 66 on the Selves card, we definitely have some master number, angel number energy going on. 12 is sometimes also considered a master number, a number of completion and stability. There's definitely a call for clarity of thought and perspective here, with the perspective from the Hangman and clarity from Justice. Clarity of perspective in terms of don't let certain triggers, desires, or biases fog your vision, cloud your vision in terms of when is the right time to apply certain tools, bring out certain aspects, qualities, and expertises that you have. In terms of the tool analogy, it's like everything looks like a nail when you're a hammer, is that common saying. I think I butchered it a little bit in terms of the exact wording, but zoom out a little bit to get a greater perspective so that you can see from more of a bird's eye view with the bird here which situation is calling for which qualities, which energies, which vibrations and tools. So that way you're not, bringing a knife to a gunfight, bringing a hammer when you need a screwdriver. Everything is not a nail. And there's nothing wrong with, the hammer aspect of yourself, to wear out that metaphor, being really eager to have its time in the sun, be used. Like, the different energies within us want to be used. And then it's not saying, the message here is not, don't use this energy at all. It's use it in the right situations. And right now that might mean saving it up a little bit for the right situation. I just got a hit of, for some of you, this is related to family, where family is requiring a little bit of patience right now, and things that you desperately want to show them, maybe even convince them of, they're going to need a little bit of time for something maybe that's recently been revealed to them to sink in, for their worldviews and perspectives, again with the Hanged Man, to get adjusted. And once they've kind of adjusted to the new temperature of water, so to speak, then you can dial up the temperature a little bit more, add in a little bit more new flavors to the dish. It's like someone getting used to spicier food, or the temperature of water analogy coming to mind for me was when you're really cold, if you then jump into really hot water, it's incredibly painful. That same temperature of water, when you're getting into it from a room temperature standpoint, might be completely fine and lovely. But if you've been really cold and a little numb, you actually need to warm up more slowly. So that's what I meant by the escalating temperature of water there. I'm definitely planning to look at the guidebook messages for those two cards, but I'm feeling the need to get at least one more Spirit Song card first. That while I'm doing that, though, Spirit just kind of highlighted that part about family or people in your life having had something recently revealed to them. For a few of you, maybe even you having had something recently revealed to you. And it's like, you have more to bring, more newness to add to the situation. And it might not be new to you, depending on what your situation is, but it is new for the other people in the situation, and it's going to be received 10 times better and have 10 times the impact and not be disruptive at all if you wait a little bit. So you might be in a moment where it feels a little bit verging on unbearable to wait. So that's why you're being called to find ways to mitigate that for yourself, to be kind and gentle to yourself, to give yourself your justice while you wait for that moment when your gift can be received. If it if you try to give it too soon, it might actually be disruptive and cause sort of backlash to you, or just a sense of rejection that will hurt you more. So if you are wondering about when to reveal something, when to give something, when to bring something to the table right now, this is definitely a message to hold on off for just a little bit. For some of you who are listening around the time this is posted, I'm kind of getting that at the end of the month. We're a week into December right now, so I'm kind of getting that for some of you. It's at the end of the month that things are going to, the current transition will be ended, and the situation or circumstances you're in will be at the beginning of a new transition at that time, and what you have to offer will actually work beautifully for that transition, and it will actually facilitate that transition. So it might be, leadership that you have to offer, and right now it'd be like, hang on, it feels like you're telling us what to do from the people in the situation. Whereas a few weeks from now, the people in the situation will be like, oh, thank goodness you have exactly the guidance we need. Or it could be something completely different. Like I said, news that you're really excited to share with your family, that right now they're just really overwhelmed with stuff and they won't be able to celebrate it with you. Could be a million other things. A workplace where you have a suggestion for a great idea, but your team really needs to wrap up the project they're currently working on before they can implement your idea, and it might get shot down if you introduce it now, which would be a real shame because it's a great idea and your team will love it if it's introduced to them when their current challenge is wrapped up. So it could be many other things, but those examples hopefully will help give some of you some ideas as to how to apply this. Those examples were coming from Spirit, so they may be very literal for some of you. And then we have, is this upside down or upright, Spirit? Upright. And this is going along very much with the message we just got, the wheel. So this is the Wheel of Fortune, number 10 in the Major Arcana. Change and possibilities, the keywords on this deck. Very much going along with the theme of changes and transitions and cycles. For a lot of you, the reason that it's not time yet for a certain aspect of you to come into play in a certain situation is because a certain cycle in these circumstances is completing at this moment, and you are a little bit ahead of the rest of the group involved, or on the cutting edge of the situation, of the environment. So you're chomping at the bit to get the new started. And if you just hold off a little bit, these possibilities that you are brimming with will actually get to enjoy a much smoother process to fruition, because they won't be competing for airtime, competing for nutrients and attention with the loose ends from the old cycle that are still being wrapped up. Those really need to be wrapped up, and you will very naturally see the opportunity, the readiness for what you have to offer open up at the end of that cycle. And it's very fitting that we are near the end of the calendar year at the moment. For some of you, the cycles may have to do with the fiscal year, may have to do with family holidays and celebrations, may have to do with other year-end cycles, spiritually or logistically. So allow this current cycle that is currently at the end of its exhale to complete before you bring in this new news for everyone to inhale and consume. Allow them to finish digesting what they're already masticating on. With all these major arcana, this is definitely something significant. And with you having so much of such great significance, potential, and potential opportunity and benefit to offer, you don't want to squander it on the wrong moment. You don't want to have right idea, wrong time, right place, wrong time. So it's worth it to wait and hold off for a little bit. I am wanting to get a little more clarity. I want to see where Spirit, of course, wants to take me, but my questions based on this are mainly about what do you need in the meantime to help yourself get through this sort of transition or waiting period? because I know how painful it can feel to feel stifled in any way. It can feel like I just can't hold back any longer. So I want to get guidance for you on how to channel this energy that you're wanting to bring forth in the meantime, while you wait for the situation you're in to be ready for it. And I also want to see, of course, any other guidance Spirit has for us, whether it's about, guidance on what situation of life this actually applies to for you, or something else. Maybe how best to capitalize on the gifts you have to offer when it is time to offer them. Let's see here. Right now, we're going to move away from the Spirit Song to another deck. And we'll potentially come back to the guidebook messages for these cards once we have more clarification about the context for those messages. All right, we're going to get some tea leaf oracle cards. This is what this deck looks like if you aren't familiar with it. I love the tea leaf oracle cards. They're so much fun. Okay, you're telling me just to shuffle, are you? Okay, we're starting with just one half of the deck. They're telling me we're going to get some messages from the other half later, probably. Tree, affairs with your family. It's so funny because when I got that message from Spirit that for a lot of you, or some of you, this does have to do with your family, it was because I was looking at the Christmas tree in the house where I'm currently staying. And I just got this hit from Spirit of, the winter holidays remind me of time spent with family. And I got this hit from Spirit of, this has to do with news these folks want to reveal to family, or some sort of change to bring to the family. Maybe some of you are wanting to talk to your partner about having a kid, and that conversation will be much more well received after the holidays. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't have to doesn't have to involve decisions about having children at all, but it might for some of you. Some of you are in business with your family, I'm hearing from Spirit. So you have changes you want to implement in the family business. And the year end really needs to wrap up first. Really interesting. I'm getting this feeling from your spirit team, your higher selves, of they're so happy and excited for you actually to implement these changes. They really want them to be as well received as possible, and they're really eager to help you with that. So that's really cool to feel so tangibly from Spirit. We have another tea leaf here. Bell announcement. Oh my gosh. So yes, a lot of you have news you're looking to share with your family, and some of you, your family is still reeling from news they just got. Probably not from you, potentially from you, but probably from someone else. And it's okay, give them a breather, let them adjust to the change they've just been through. And then you will have the stage, you will have the spotlight, you'll have a platform without having to compete for attention, without making them feel like they're overwhelmed. It's you're so excited to share this because it's not a bad thing. It doesn't deserve to be received as a bad thing. And if it got received as a bad thing right now, it wouldn't necessarily be your fault or your family's fault. It would just be, they're just overwhelmed. They're just stressed. They just need a little time. They just need a little rest first. Another tea leaf. Goldfish. Increase in material wealth or spiritual growth. Love that. I love the confluence here between the orange goldfish and the orange octopus here. This sea life theme. I want to get some clarification on that card. I'm being told we're done with the tea leaves for the moment. We might get more later. But I'm being guided to get clarification on the goldfish card before moving on to any other sort of questions or points of clarification. And I'm being drawn to the Foxfire Oracle deck for our next steps here. So let me shuffle this a little bit. Okay. All right, Spirit, clarification on the goldfish card, clarification on this situation for pile 2, and what is needed here. Okay. Oh, that's funny. We have the cover image from this deck. Rare knowledge, number 6. Many of you have some sort of rare knowledge or insight to share with your family. I'm so sorry to cover up some of the cards here. We may be uncovering them again later, depending on what messages, what cards we go back to for further messages. In pile 1, you may have noticed that the intro was, my camera was much farther away from the tabletop. But when I started to film pile 1, I discovered that the cards were actually out of focus because of the camera having difficulty focusing on such fine images from that distance. So I brought it closer. Okay, card number 6. Oh, and we had 66 with the selves card. And we have 10, 11, 12 with the major arcana, and if you add 10, 11, 12 together, that's 33, which also resolves down to 6. Powerful angel number, manifestation energy. 666 is an incredibly powerful number for manifestation. So it's not that the number in itself is evil. It's that groups throughout history with both evil and positive intent have used that number for manifestation, and so it has become infamous for the way it's been used. But that manifestation energy, the Empress energy from the number 3 as well with the 33, and a Venus energy from the number 6. Venus and the Empress really go well together. They're both associated with Taurus, fertility, abundance, beauty. So this increase in material wealth or spiritual growth. Venus is also associated with love, which is a very high vibrational spiritual energy. And is Venus's blessing, Aphrodite's blessing, is incredibly powerful. It was called on as a military blessing for victory in Roman times. So you have really powerful spiritual energy backing you with what you are aiming to manifest in the physical, with what you are bringing to the table. There is divine timing at play with this. So you're not just being asked to wait for no reason. You're not just being asked to let your energy rot or stagnate, or and you're not letting a moment pass. You are preparing yourself for the right moment to put your rare knowledge to its best use. Let's see what this guidebook for the Foxfire Oracle has to say about the rare knowledge card. I cannot begin to describe to you how powerful the divine energy behind this, what you are trying to birth into the world, is. With that Empress energy and Venus energy and that language that just came through me about birth, for some of you it really may be about bringing children into the world, so wanting to have a conversation about that with family, or perhaps you have a pregnancy to announce and your family is just overwhelmed, and so you're waiting to share it with them, share that news with them at a time when they can really celebrate with you. And if that is the case, congratulations. So happy for you, so thrilled for you. Spirit is so thrilled for you. I'm actually just incredibly impressed with I'm in awe of the level of divine energy behind and within you, and behind, like, backing and within, infusing your endeavor that you are bringing into the world, striving to begin here. This is powerful. You are powerful. You are potent. And this opportunity or endeavor is potent. And you're not, again, Spirit is really wanting to crystallize for you that you are not letting that potency stagnate or waste away or wane. You are actually allowing it to build to its most fertile, ripest point, so that the fruit will fall naturally and be at its sweetest. you're letting the magic kind of condense into its most potent, undiluted form. And then, just like that, this will begin to fall into place with the major arcana and everything in that series 10, 11, 12. You have so much magic behind you. You are in the flow of the river of source. Let it push you along. Let it guide you along. And I'm just looking at the tree in this rare knowledge card and the tree in the family affairs card and getting such a strong message of, again, for some of you, this is about having kids, that extension of the tree, the extension of the family line, it growing. And for some of you, if this is not about kids, it could be about nieces and nephews as well as your own kids, but it could also be about ancestral healing, something that you are bringing to the table of your family business or your family affairs that will promote and create opportunities for immense healing of your family line. And that's why it's so critical and so celebrated and has so much magic and mysticality and just absolutely incredible divine energy within and behind it. I'm really feeling that running through me, and I hope you feel it as well. I'm sure you must if this is your pile, because this is what you are bringing forth into the world. All right, so the rare knowledge card in this Foxfire deck guidebook. You now have within you wisdom that many others have denied or destroyed. And it is for you to discover this, understand this, and to regrow this within the world. I'm going to pause reading that because I just got this hit from Spirit regarding the ancestral healing possibilities. And this could be relevant to other types of more physical pursuits as well. But this insight that you have, these gems of knowledge and wisdom and energy, the vibration you have to share it in whatever form is calling to you. Going back to the message of the Selves card and also the Hanged Man. It's like certain very high, rare vibrations, like gems, are meant for certain people in certain circumstances because other people don't know how to handle them and will drop them and get them scratched and things like that. So you have been called to keep certain things protected and private for some time. You know, for example, if you were trying to have a child, you might have kept that, the fact that you were in that pursuit, in that process, you might have kept that private from certain members of your family, knowing that their input on the process would cause you more stress, which would make it physically more difficult and dangerous to attempt to have a child. It's well documented, the effects of stress on fertility and general physical well-being. So that's just one example. When it comes to spiritual insight and practices and knowledge, oftentimes, like we were talking about with 666, these powerful tools can get misused when shared with people whose intentions are not pure. So you have been very wise to keep certain things to yourself or to trusted circles. And you are correct in feeling this burgeoning feeling of something is about to be ready to be shared. Just keep on meditating and waiting for, listening for, staying alert to the input of your higher self, your spirit, staying alert to the signals. Because you will know when it is time to share and with whom. You really, really need to listen to your gut about with whom not to share certain things and how to share it with certain people. Because sometimes, a lot of situations, certain details of the situation really don't need to be shared and are best not shared with certain people. Other people might get the whole story, all of its gory details, and other people, you might go, they really only need to know X, Y, and Z. They don't need to know the whole alphabet of variables that went into the alphabet soup of this situation. And you are getting those types of inklings, you have for a long time. Some of you have dismissed those inklings as like, oh, I'm just being paranoid. This is just in my head. This is coming from nowhere. I don't need to be so afraid. I don't need to be so untrusting. And those inklings are actually very real and very much to be honored and trusted, because your rare knowledge, your wisdom, your vibration is to be honored. And when you are getting gut signals, gut instincts about whom to trust with it, and when is the right time, when is not, what situation, maybe everyone but one person in the room is ready to have this shared with them, but you're going to have to share it with them at a situation when that one person is not privy to it, because that's important for protecting yourself or for protecting the gifts and opportunities you have to share. Maybe there's, in that family business idea, maybe there's one member of the family who's really not involved in the family business and typically doesn't even really want to be, but if you presented your idea around them, they would maybe try to influence it or even hijack it, and it would end up wrecking the way it got implemented. So I'm not going to present this idea, at the family holiday gathering where everyone is there and it's going to end up being discussed with this person. I'm going to wait till our family business meeting in the new year, where only the people who are really involved and dedicated to the family business will be there. And that way I know it's going to be taken seriously. My vision of how to implement it is going to be taken seriously, instead of it being taken lightly and torn to pieces. With the people who are really dedicated to the business, I know that the feedback they give will be for the highest good of the family business, instead of them just nitpicking and criticizing just to kind of try to give themselves an ego boost. That's an example that's coming through really strongly. Let me take a sip of liquid here and then get back to reading the description of the rare knowledge card from the guidebook. Yeah, really trust yourself. Trust yourself. While I was sipping my tea, I was drawn back to that tea tag about celebrate your successes and failures, both require great courage. Some of you who have tended in the past not to trust those inklings that you get, those instincts and hunches that you get, might not have trusted them because of times when you feel you have failed. And those instances, those mistakes or poor outcomes are not indicators that you should trust yourself less or that you deserve less trust. Those were experiences that have honed the tools and the insight and the discernment that you have by showing you, okay, I was listening to my gut, but I let how I implemented my idea be influenced by such and such feedback that was really actually not coming from someone who had my best interests at heart. And you know what? It sucks that I had that experience and that I let them get to me, but I've learned now, and that can actually strengthen my trust in myself, and strengthen my belief in my courage and my commitment and my potential and my competence, most of all, rather than making me think that I am less competent, less strong, or less deserving of responsibility and power. The house I'm staying in right now has this clock with that's playing Christmas jingles on the hour every hour, so it's just turning 2 o'clock. If the number 2 is significant to any of you, we do have a bunch of double numbers here, the 66, the 11, the 33 that we talked about earlier, so make of that what you will. I just heard double the success in my mind, really capitalizing on divine timing and trusting your instincts and keeping things protected when they need to be preserved in private will double your success. And also what you have to share will double your family's success or healing. Because for some of you it's both, but for some of you this is leaning with the goldfish here. For some of you this is leaning more towards the material side or more towards the spiritual side. So for some of you it definitely is going to go hand in hand, because so many of our family lines do have trauma related to scarcity and survival. And so healing the spiritual and emotional wounds of the line goes hand in hand with increasing the generational wealth. Okay, I keep saying I'm going to get back to the guidebook. Here we go. This ancient knowledge is simple in many ways, and it has been kept by the indigenous peoples of this planet. I just got to hit spiritually that some of you are from indigenous spiritual lines, and that's part of why it's actually such a huge deal that you are so committed to and successful in your ancestral healing, and part of why there's so much divine backing for you, because your family line carries very rare vibrations because of the atrocities that were committed that eliminated so many family lines that previously shared in the vibrations and gifts that you have to offer. That's part of why this rare knowledge is coming through, and why we have these beautiful trees and these cards. Yeah. Back to the guidebook. But there are people like you whose role it is to be a keeper of the wisdoms and to spread the seeds for future generations. Doing this will enhance your memory and your vitality and cultivate a sense of being here for a purpose. What you can do is to keep the sense of knowledge very simple and be very kind, and to see that many people are not ready to embrace the simplicity and beauty. So yes, that is really shining another angle of light on how you discern with whom you're ready to share certain things, and also how you handle those people. Kill them with kindness, keep things very simple and be very kind to people that you might feel a little bit like you're dancing around or trying to handle very carefully. You don't need to, make up some sort of elaborate cover-up to keep them off your scent if you're trying to sort of keep something private from them. Just keep things very simple. I've been doing great. Let me tell you the truth about what's been going well in my life and ask you about how you're doing, and engage with you about your life with genuine care and concern, and model for you the vibration that I have to share, even if I'm not sharing the specific insights and nuggets of wisdom and thoughts that I have with you. That's very powerful. Planting those seeds of kindness is enormously powerful. And of course, if there are some people who are really triggering you and setting you off and you just need to walk away and avoid them, that's being kind to yourself too. So don't beat yourself up for that. I do have another paragraph to read from this guidebook, but also for some of you where you may not necessarily be part of indigenous family alliance on Earth, you may be the bearers of a specific extraterrestrial lineage of light work and vibrations that you are carrying as a starseed on Earth. So that may apply to some of you as well in terms of the rare knowledge and gifts you have to offer. This card also asks you to be open to making shifts and changes within your food sources, to become simple and to eat quote-unquote old foods that have been on the planet for a long time. This change will help you to be straightforward and clear about who you are, and this process will see you beginning to reveal more and more of who you are, and as you grow older, you will become an inspiration to others. This will be because your vitality and your clear and simple wisdom will be a kind of beacon to others. You will be a person whom others feel is heartfelt and warm, calm and tranquil, yet highly impactful on the life of others, simply through your focus and your wisdom. All of the simple things when this card comes are the way through to higher wisdom. So don't get distracted by fancy packaging. Some of you might be listening to this going, I don't have some crazy business idea, and I don't, I have intuition and I get what you're saying about spiritual gifts, but I don't feel like I have some huge bomb of insight to drop on my family. And just you being simply kind and leading by example, and not allowing folks who are less than kind to drag you down to their level is actually exactly the quote-unquote bomb drop that your family needs. Simply not being a doormat, announcing by your behavior and what you tolerate what sort of respect you are worthy of is a huge deal for a lot of family lines that have long lineages of codependency and poor boundaries. So don't underestimate yourself, your kindness, your self-love, and your self-respect. And be very deliberate about what you tolerate, what behavior you tolerate, who you share with, of course, and how you enforce your boundaries, how you gracefully walk away from people who are not giving you the respect you deserve, how you gracefully say, this isn't working for me. I would appreciate it if you come back and talk to me when you're ready to have a mature conversation or a kind conversation, or to speak to me without raising your voice. For some of you, just walking through the day of your family holiday celebration with that type of attitude is going to blow the minds of other family members, set an example for them, and show them how it's done in a way that they've never witnessed before. So don't be afraid to show how you've changed in that type of way, to bring forth ancestral healing to your family in that type of way. That's part of, with the Selves card, how you show certain aspects of yourself in certain situations. So, sometimes the elements are coming to mind here. So sometimes the fire element, the earth element, the air element, the water element come out. The air element of going with the flow, allowing yourself to go wherever the wind takes you, is great in moments when you have genuinely no vested interest in what the outcome or the proceeding of the situation is. The water element shows you how to go with the flow in a way that is kind and loving, and is expansive enough to absorb and transmute what enters into your field without taking it on or becoming it, allowing it to flow through you rather than taking it on and absorbing it and holding on to it. And also water wearing down rock slowly and softly over time, patiently, again with the Hanged Man. The earth element and fire element are what I'm being drawn to most, though, because you do have such potent energy. Of course, water and air are incredibly divine, especially water, but fire and earth are just what I'm being drawn to the most. Even though we have this tremendous water element here, we have the earth from the tree and these fire colors, all the oranges and reds. And I'm just being drawn to how you being very simply grounded in the earth element, like this tree, allows you to be both kind and unmoving at the same time, to be calm while standing your ground. The same way the tree is not uprooted by the breeze that, rustles its leaves when someone in the family or around the family is ruffling your feathers. They don't have to get permission to do any more than ruffle the feathers. You can stay grounded like the tree. And with the fire element, the way you unleash the fire, again, like the tools we were talking about before, it can destroy or it can cleanse and purge and clarify and transmute. And so how you kindly stand your ground shows folks, you may not have realized it before, but I do actually have the fire within me to defend myself and to show you the respect I deserve. So you better not cross me. But I am showing you that in a way that is kind and generous and graceful. I'm not just burning you down right away. And you should take heed of that and follow my example as well. That's leading by example when you show that kindness and grace. And that sort of unflappable nature is very rare in this world. And with the ways of channeling and funneling fire appropriately and waiting for the right moment to reveal news and reveal what you have to offer, sometimes that is it's okay to unleash anger and show people, this actually infuriates me when you treat me this way, or when you say these inappropriate things to other members of the family, or so on and so forth. It's actually appropriate to show anger in certain contexts for the sake of protection, for the sake of showing love and protection to yourself or to others, especially for the sake of standing up for the vulnerable. And you may be a family member who is able to stand up for younger cousins or siblings or nephews and nieces, or able to stand up for, your mom or something like that. And it's actually okay to sort of unleash a tirade in certain situations. It's choosing your moment wisely and allowing what your higher self is moving you to do to move through you, allowing your highest intentions to move you and not holding them back, but allowing them to guide you in terms of choosing your moment. So definitely take what from those many examples or possible permutations resonates with you. They're not all going to apply to every single person by any means. So I'm being guided to go back to the Spirit Song Guidebook for the guidebook messages about those 3 cards we pulled. So we're going to start with the Hanged Man, number 12. And in this card, it is symbolized by the praying mantis. A prophet of calm and patience, praying mantis changes his landscape by hanging upside down, reveling in a moment of observance and clarity while he waits. This is a time of suspension between the physical and spiritual worlds. He is your guide in opening yourself to new perspectives through which you will discover solutions and gain new insight. When life is at a standstill, look to the past for lessons learned, yet look to the future through the eyes of spirit renewed. A shift in perspective develops foresight, which will bring a sense of peace and understanding in where you want to go. In the stillness of meditation, you are accessing greater depth of wisdom and creativity. Keywords: perspective, patience, enlightenment, sacrifice, prophecy, and letting go. With the fire element that we just talked about in that keyword of patience, there is a reminder for some of you that making a sacrifice is incredibly different when it's done out of I have to and duty, obligation, in a way that then festers as resentment, versus when it's done truly willingly, truly from a place of a free will choice where you are objectively assessing the cost benefit analysis and you're going, it is worth it to me to sacrifice this to the fire that I want to emerge from, so that I can emerge as a new phoenix, so that my family can be healed, so that I can feel better. For example, in that instance about a conflict with a family member, I've been sacrificing so much to keep the peace with this family member. I'm going to sacrifice the veneer, the facade of peace, the illusion of there being no conflict here, so that I'm going to sacrifice that on the altar of truth so that I can be authentic, and so that my other family members can see the courage and see that they can embody that courage too, and that they also don't have to let themselves be walked on by this family member, so that I can lead by example. There's so much that I'm going to get out of this. It doesn't even feel like a sacrifice. Similarly, with there being potentially a waiting period for something you're really excited to share, that waiting doesn't have to feel like a huge sacrifice if you understand why you're doing it. There was also reference in this message back to what we talked about learning from past mistakes and seeing them through loving eyes, seeing them through eyes that value and cherish yourself for the work you've put in and what you've endured to learn everything you've learned, and to then position yourself where you're positioned now, so that you can actually capitalize on those learning experiences and use them to immense benefit. What else? That reference to being in a time of suspension between the physical and spiritual worlds. For some of you, I'm getting this energy of feeling like you're between a rock and a hard place right now. Feeling like you're in a, feeling between a rock and a hard place right now. Feeling like you're in a compressed space, a compressed state, with some pressure, in a pressurized chamber almost. For some of you, I think that's because you've experienced kind of a fast-paced period of spiritual growth that hasn't soaked into your physical life and physical manifestations yet. And you're like, for example, for some people this shows up as, I know better, but I haven't learned how to do better yet, when they're trying to change patterns and routines and habits and choices in their everyday life. It's like, I've been in these patterns that haven't worked for me for a long time, and I have made so much healing progress in my work to shift these patterns, but I also haven't completely shifted the patterns. I've shifted them internally, and the shift hasn't clicked externally yet. So there's a message here for those of you who are in that situation to be really patient and kind and gentle with yourself. Don't waver in your commitment. Don't waver in keeping your fire lit, but be really gentle and patient with yourself, because you've put in so much work to radically change your mindset and that spiritual growth, and the material is coming next. Don't try to bear down and beat up on yourself and whip yourself into shape to force certain changes to happen. That would actually just be reinforcing old non-self-loving patterns. Look at yourself through this lens of this new, more expansive, more self-loving and compassionate and non-judgmental mindset that you have learned. Have compassion for all of the versions of yourself, and see how the versions of yourself that you've maybe been hating on a little bit or felt wounded by have actually been trying to protect you, and ask spirit, ask your higher self how you would respond to them with love, so that you can nurture more loving relationships within yourself and materialize those as healthier habits, healthier patterns and choices. And that is creating immense ancestral healing for your line. But for some of you, this is, there is a lot of an inside job going on. For some of you, these family affairs and announcements are a lot heavier on the external and the material earthly world. And for some of you, they're a lot heavier on the spiritual internal side. Yeah. Looking at yourself through new perspective, through the eyes of love. Discovering yourself instead of thinking that you already know yourself. Not that you don't have immense self-knowledge. Of course you do. If this is your pile, that's showing very clearly. But there's a bit of a rote response for those of you who are in that in-between stage that I was just talking about with, I've just kind of skyrocketed in my spiritual growth, but I feel like I'm behind on the physical. I had to pause for a second to check if the dog was actually barking at anything. Yeah, for those of you who are feeling a little bit behind on the physical, there's an energy of you have a rote learned response to yourself that kind of kicks in by default, and you're reprogramming that. So pause and see what the different way to react to yourself is. Identify your rote response to yourself, whether it's, kicking yourself, beating yourself up, trying to whip yourself into shape, assuming, responding to a situation by assuming you have limited capacity, limited competence, limited power. See that alarm bell, hear that alarm bell, and pause and go, is that true? Is what I'm thinking and assuming about myself true? Or am I actually in a position to discover what is true about myself, and it might not be this? How do I actually want to respond to this? Do I have more options for responding to this situation than I thought I did? And a lot of you are going to be really beautifully, beautifully surprised by what comes to light and unfolds and emerges from that pause, what you discover from within yourself. That is a huge energy that I think applies to those of you who are going through more of the material, physical plane changes as well. Whew. Yeah, that was a really intense, energetic message, the one that just came through there. So really potent for a lot of you. Thank you for tuning in to that, because I can really feel that heeding that is going to make a big difference for a lot of you. Okay. I'm going to pull her off to the side so we can see Justice. And Justice is represented by the crow in this deck, number 11, Truth and Clarity. At the portal of shadow and light, the seen and unseen, the crow holds the gifts of ancient wisdom and sacred law. I just got a hit as well that with what we were talking about with indigenous lines, and also, again, even if you're not from an indigenous family line, or maybe only have a drop of indigenous blood that you don't even know about, there is something about your healing bringing justice to the family line. The shifts you are making, bringing justice to the family line. And also, again, that portal of shadow and light, the seen and unseen, very similar to what we were just talking about between being suspended between the spiritual and the physical, the spiritual growth and the increase in the material. Crow holds the gifts of ancient wisdom and sacred law. Her sharp perception illuminates the core of truth. She is able to discern what is fair, and she stands on guard to ensure that such fairness is fulfilled. So this harkens back to what we were talking about with standing up for what's right amongst your family, standing up for and against family members, and also standing up for what's right in family business. Her sharp perception illuminates the core of truth also reminds me that this message of the selves reminded you to, while switching back and forth between different faces, personas of yourself. I'm seeing 222 on the clock right now, by the way, which adds up to 6. 3 2s adding up to 6. Many numerological synchronicities in this reading. Lots of manifestation energy, very powerful divine alignment energy for you folks. I'm really blown away by that. But while you're trying on these different faces and using these different aspects of yourself for their best fulfillment, this message reminded you to check in and make sure that every aspect you're presenting is in fact true to yourself. So in conjunction with this Justice card, this message about sharp perception cutting through to the core of truth, at the core of all of yourselves, all of your personas and faces is your higher self, your heart, your soul, your wisdom, your true desires, your true needs, the true love that you have for the things and people that you love in this world, your connection to all that is, which is indelible and cannot be harmed or taken away by anything or any force at all in any universe. Those core truths are beckoning for you to come back to them. This is interesting because this is actually echoing a little bit of a message that was in pile 1. If you were drawn to pile 1 as well, there may be messages for you there as well. But there's this message coming through the Justice card about using the different aspects of yourself as pathways back, pathways that you can trace back, tributaries of a river that you can trace back to the source of the river. So you can follow the motivations and the qualities and the drives and desires of different aspects of yourself back to the center and core of yourself. That's a place you can powerfully ground into and heal from when you're striving to be grounded and source your boundaries and stand up for yourself and needing to be firm and unwavering and keep your fire lit. This is also a place from which all wisdom unfolds. All wisdom unfolds from the source within yourself, the connection to source, God, the universe within yourself. So that place within you is beckoning you back. And for some of you, that's your guidance as well. We talked earlier about feeling stifled because a certain medicine you have to offer the patient is not ready for. And feeling like, I just can't sit on this anymore. I just can't sit on this announcement or this offering anymore, this news, whatever it is that you have to share. One of the ways that you can deal with that is by tracing the energy of that part of you back to the source, the core of yourself, and sitting in that core of yourself, sitting in an observer mindset, feeling into your heart, asking your heart what it needs, and creating and providing integration for yourself from that central seat. Being fully present within your body, mind, and heart. Breathwork practices are very powerful for that because the breath so tangibly connects all of these aspects of self. No matter which aspect of yourself you are going towards or leaning towards, as long as you're alive, you're drawing breath, and that can connect all of you. So if you are being called to meditate, you might be being called to breathwork practices to align your attention and all of these aspects of yourself on the present moment, being physically present in your body, like stacking the vertebrae of your spine. And also breathwork for regulating the nervous system so that you can stay calm and grounded in your center when challenges arise that you need to show your fire and your boundaries with. So back to the justice message. As a bringer of clarity, Crow will assist you towards spiritual self-awareness. In standing by your personal integrity, you will awaken your authentic self. Balance is a continuous process on the road of adjustment. Weigh decisions carefully so as to bring everything back into balance. You are the orchestrator of your life. Consider the results of all actions taken as your actions and thoughts shape your future. Keywords: truth, clarity, balanced thought, self-examination, adjustment, cause and effect, responsibility. So this is definitely calling you to a balanced perspective from which you have access to all the discernment you need about when and with whom and where to share things, time and place, time and setting, set and setting. And for the wheel, the octopus, change and possibilities. The message from the book is: events may at times seem random, but the wheel of life holds an intelligent structure and a higher working force. Akin to the energies of the turning wheel, octopus is a master in adapting fluidly to change. With the ability to gracefully move through new challenges, her flexibility is a reminder to acclimate to the ever-changing cycles of life. Octopus will be your guide as you move toward your goals in unexpected ways to achieve your desired results. Go with the flow and release past restrictions. The key to success is adaptability. When you tune into the rhythm of the universe, you'll be the master of your own destiny. Keywords: change, possibilities, new beginnings, adaptation, good fortune, a turning point, and movement. Taking a sip of liquid here. Or a few gulps, as it turns out. So many messages through here. What we were just talking about the core of you that connects you to everything that is in the greater universe and also connects all the aspects of yourself to you at your heart and center. It's very much like the octopus, where all of these tentacles of your different selves still connect to the center, the mastermind within. And connecting to the center allows you to connect to your free will so that you can choose which tentacle, so to speak, to apply to each situation and when. There's a meditation. The artist who paints the images on this deck, the Frequency Tarot, her name is Teal Swan, teal like the color swan, like the bird. And she also has a lot of videos in spiritual and psychological teaching on YouTube, as well as books and other content. And she has a meditation. I don't know if it's in its own video on YouTube, but she's talked about it many times in the course of other videos, where she says to connect to source by imagining yourself as a tentacle of source, like as if source is the octopus and you are the tip of one tentacle, so you can travel up to source's mind. Not that it's literally up, but that is a visualization, a meditation tool that you can use to expand your consciousness into the mind of source by tracing yourself back to your origin, tracing your own stream of consciousness back to the river from which it is, or the ocean from which it is a tributary, the ocean in which it is a current. And she also then sometimes extends that meditation as this is also how you can see other people's perspectives and walk in their shoes if you're really mystified by someone else's perspective and you're in a situation where you can't just simply ask them. Of course, that's always advisable if that is appropriate to simply ask people their point of view, but sometimes there are obstacles to that. They may even simply be too overwhelmed to accurately represent their point of view. And there's no judgment about that. But maybe it's also a stranger that was rude to you on the street and you just are like, it would help me to understand what was going on with that person so that I know, so that I can kind of let it go because that really got to me. It could be so many things. And this isn't necessarily a practice to do regularly for the faint of heart. It's not that it's hard, but it's that you want to really strengthen your core sense of self. And while it's wonderful to expand your sense of self to include access to your higher self that is fully at one with source and with all that is, it's also important while you're embodied to make sure that you are always coming back from this meditation to your core sense of self as this incarnation. So that's why I say it's not for the faint of heart, not because it's dangerous, but because you want to be patient and thorough and cautious with how you take care of yourself. You want to really take care of yourself and not neglect yourself or bypass yourself with engaging in practices like this. So to complete my thought though, you can extend that meditation to walking in other people's shoes by going, okay, from the head of the source, universe, God, octopus, what does life look like? What does the perspective look like if I travel down a different tentacle than my own to person X, Y, or Z's perspective? What is their perspective? Let me try that on for size before I go back to my own perspective. I want to see what walking in their shoes is like so I can understand the choices they're making, so I can understand how they feel, so I can understand why they seem to be thinking things that make no sense to me when I'm in my own perspective, that sort of thing. And that general broadening of your perspective can also, of course, just open you up to more possibilities. But that meditation, especially in conjunction with the Hanged Man on perspective, getting different perspectives is coming through as something that will be useful for some of you, not necessarily for all of you. But calling on that connection between all of yourselves and the connection among all that is source, like source, because everything is part of source, everything is inextricably connected, everything in existence. So accessing that connection and the connection on the microcosm between yourselves, the aspects of yourself, is very important for some of you, and Spirit is not really giving me a specific reason why, so I'm trusting that you are going to know, based on the rest of this reading, how that applies to your specific situation. For some of you with family affairs, it's just about not trying to control your family, but rather trying to understand them and recognizing that you do not need to control them to cope with them or to deal with them or to enforce your boundaries. You simply need to enforce your boundaries and, seek understanding from them and understanding for them when possible, but stay grounded in your core sense of self rather than letting them pull you out of it. And if understanding is not reached, oh well, but hopefully it can be. Okay, we have gone on a ride today, and I can feel this message winding down. What? There was a lot of fire in this message for me. What else, Spirit? Are we drawing any more cards? Yes. Apparently we're going to draw some more tea leaf cards before we wrap up. Oh, goodness. Okay. My legs have forgotten how to stand. Not really, but sometimes going between sitting and standing while I'm doing these readings does get a little painful. All right, we're shuffling the other half of the Tea Leaf Oracle deck now. And for our first message, we have purse, pay attention to your finances. Interesting, since we had the increase in material wealth there. This may have to do with the waiting period that we were talking about at the beginning of the reading. You know, you have a great idea that you're super excited to invest in, and you're being cautioned to wait for the right moment by Spirit and reminded by your higher self to tap into all of the guidance systems that you have for your discernment about what that right moment is, and don't overspend too quickly. And for our next one, we have Mule. Someone is extremely stubborn and unwilling to change. Yeah. Some of you, this is someone in your family that you do need to stand up to. With the Hanged Man, it can feel like you're trapped by people like that, and you are being called to transmute your relationship with any people like this in your life, and your relationship with any parts of yourself that feel intractable. I think we all have times when we feel a part of ourself is unworkable, and that quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. comes to mind. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So we were talking before about changing your rote responses to yourself in the direction and in the name of self-love and healing, ancestral healing. So at different moments in life, that can apply to anyone. Not letting yourself be trapped by resistance, where you struggle against what you're caught in as the Hanged Man, and end up getting caught tighter as a result. But let yourself flow with the situations, with all these messages of adaptability that we've had here, and as a result, you find the ties unexpectedly loosening by being present and flowing and being adaptable. That doesn't mean surrendering in the sense of submitting to the person who is extremely stubborn and unwilling to change. Many of you, based on the messages in this reading, are in positions where you are shifting that dynamic of submission within your family by actually standing up to certain people or forces or situations that have really needed some standing up to for a good long time. Don't feel bad about it. Spirit is saying they've needed standing up to for a good long time. You are doing the world a favor, and you are not in the wrong, no matter how much they may try to gaslight you into thinking that. That's coming directly from Spirit. But you don't have to show up to every battle you're invited to. Don't get mired in fighting with them. Don't get tricked into revealing things you meant to keep private from them and keep protected from them. Don't get tripped up that way. And when you feel yourself starting to get tripped up in that way, return to what we were talking about with shifting your responses to yourself. Don't beat yourself up for it. Take a break. Regulate yourself with your breathing. Don't be afraid to tell people. Let's revisit this conversation when you're able to speak to me in a calm manner, you know? Those types of languagings are often secret weapons that are underutilized because we feel like we have to show up to the battle right now, this second, just because we've been invited to it. And that's not actually the case. You actually have free will and choice about how you'd show up in the situation. Whether you walk away, no one can stop you. Yeah, that was a big message coming through. And with what we were talking about briefly about not needing to control family members, don't get consumed by needing to change this stubborn person. offer them the insights when it is time, when you are guided to. Offer them those insights, those aspects of yourself that you have to offer, the wisdom and vision that you have to share. But again, also protect that vision by sharing it with the people who want to capitalize on it and celebrate it with you first and foremost, so that you can enact it with them without the stubborn person getting in the way. That doesn't mean you can't share the vision at all with them, but there might be certain details you don't want to share with them, or you might want to share it with them at a later time when it's already being put into place, so that they do not influence the other people involved in the situation. This is a great example of how manipulating in and of itself is not either evil or good. It's manipulating without considering the best interests of everyone involved in the situation that is not pure in intention and can lead in evil directions. There are certain gentle types of manipulation for the sake of protecting yourself and others who are vulnerable that are actually immensely powerful and important and empowering. So this is, again, a message coming through to remind you, don't feel bad about something just because someone who's used to getting their way and dominating situations wants to gaslight you into feeling bad about it. Don't feel bad about doing what you actually know deep in your heart is right. Don't succumb to self-doubt in that way. Yes, of course, check yourself before you wreck yourself. You don't necessarily always want to be impulsive or always want to be calculating and manipulative, but there are moments for these things. There are moments to listen to the snap judgment and the snap impulse. There are moments to be very calculating about how and when you make your move, because that's discernment, not some type of evil manipulation. Another tea leaf, wishbone, a wish is granted. Yes, definitely speaking to the spiritual growth, ancestral healing, and material wealth, and speaking to all of this being information. It's like you know exactly how to go about fulfilling your wish, and you are waiting to bring other people in on it, and you are receiving this guidance about when and how and what to be watchful of and wary of, so that your wish can be fulfilled in the best way possible. And again, for some of you, I am being told this is about bringing a child into the world. So again, I truly wish you the best and congratulate you on that. Thank you so much for tuning in today, Pile 2. I'm so honored to have you here with your rare insight and knowledge, your rare vibration. Thank you for bringing this to the world and for showing such great care in how you do so. I hope you have a wonderful week.